Yo, what's up, family? I'm really excited to be back in the We series. Over the last several weeks, we've had a lot of things that we've discussed. We've talked about dreams, we've talked about visions, we've talked about prayer. We've even celebrated what God has done up to this point. This week, we want to switch it up a little bit. We are talking about something that is woven throughout the scriptures and is something that we really want to reflect. And that thing is collaboration. When you look all throughout the scriptures, everywhere it gives this imagery of we are the body of Christ. And so today we switched it all the way up, and I want to introduce you to Heather Rice Minus of Prison Fellowship and Jason Bass. We went to the top floor of Hotel Revival, and we had a dope conversation. So welcome back to the We series where we talk about collaboration.
Jason, can you just tell everybody like who you are, your organization, what you do, introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, first, thanks for having me. I'm Jason Bass, like you said, the Director of Culture and Impact here at Revival Baltimore. We are in the top floor of the hotel, the 15th floor, with an amazing view. Can't really see it right now because we had to close the curtains.
Y'all got to come check it out.
Yes, please do. And outside of that role, I'm also a community activist around, usually just like food-based stuff. Mm-hmm. And I'm trying to hide my stomach right now because then you would know there's a personal connection with me and food. And I'm just like a serial collaborator. This is a conversation I'm really excited to be a part of and contribute to. Yeah. So yeah, that's it.
Well, thanks for joining us, Jason. And then we have Heather Rice Minus from Prison Fellowship. I'll let you introduce yourself, Heather, and tell us about your role, about Prison Fellowship.
Sure. So Heather Rice Minus from Prison Fellowship. I'm our Executive Vice President of Strategic Initiatives, and we're the nation's largest Christian nonprofit serving people who are in prison, their families, returning citizens, and we're also a leading advocate for justice reform. I live in Washington, D.C., and I came to Prison Fellowship. I was trained as an attorney and worked on criminal justice reform for the organization. I've been there for 10 years, and now I also get the privilege to oversee our outreach to families of the incarcerated. We have our largest church program is called Prison Fellowship Angel Tree, that serves in non-COVID times over 300,000 kids who have an incarcerated mom or dad, and also get the opportunity to speak into other areas of the ministry, including our faith-based programming inside prisons.
Great. Yeah, awesome.
Now, Heather, I'm really excited because, and you don't know this about me, but I was an Angel Tree kid.
Wow.
When I was a kid, I got a FUBU
I don't even think I
football
knew
jersey.
that. Yeah.
I got a FUBU football jersey when I was a kid in a Godzilla. You know what I'm saying? That you press the button and it roared and it moved like this. And my kids broke it. So we're gonna move past that. But just knowing all the things that you guys do, how important is collaboration to Prison Fellowship, and just all the things that you guys do?
Well, thank you so much for sharing that. What a fun connection. And Prison Fellowship, when it first got started, we've been around for over 45 years. And I've been going back through ever since I got the opportunity to oversee what we call church mobilization. Right. And I've been going back through all the old documents. And our founder, the late Chuck Olson, he actually said, Prison Fellowship will be around for 5 years.
Wow.
And the church will take it up, and we won't need to exist anymore.
Right.
And his journey in realizing, we do still need to exist. We need to be sort of this liaison between the church and corrections, and we have some expertise that we can provide in the long run, is why we still exist. But at the end of the day, we want to do things through the local church, and we also want to partner with other nonprofits and governments and other stakeholders because we all have something to contribute, and we all have our own expertise come to bear. And I'm really excited about today's conversation because we actually just launched what we call Opportunity Kids Collaborative.
Yeah.
And, Collaborative was very purposeful because we know our program for Prison Fellowship Angel Tree helps connect kids with their incarcerated parent, usually starting with a gift. At Christmas, we're delivering Godzilla or whatever you may have received, your jersey, on behalf of your mom or dad, right? And that's keeping that connection going. We provide sports camps in select cities. Just got to have one here in Baltimore with the Ravens the other week, and Pastor Josh gave a word to the kids. Yeah. And we also do summer camp scholarships. But we know kids need so much more if they're truly going to have that first chance that they need to not enter the justice system, right? Mentoring organizations, literacy organizations, health and wellness, right? Food security issues. All of these other organizations have expertise that we don't, that we can collaborate with to ensure that we're really giving that true first chance to kids who have an incarcerated parent or otherwise have some obstacles in front of them.
That's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Jason, you're not in the church space per se, but like, man, the impact that you're having in the city is just incredible with Hotel Revival. You know, what you guys are doing here and how you're you know, thinking about collaboration. So talk to me, like you mentioned earlier, hey, I'm a serial collaborator. Unpack a little bit of that for us, and then just talk about like a couple of things that you have been working on and that you're like how you're leveraging collaboration to have impact in the city.
Yeah, great question. And like, you know, I think there's a point that you come into your life where you realize you just can't do it alone. Right. The problems that you're facing, they didn't happen, you know, in a vacuum. They happened and spread throughout, you know, or permeated like our communities in a way that, you know, everybody just allowed that to happen, right? So it's going to take a collective of people with intention, with passion, with care, with resources to solve these problems. So one of the things that I'm actually responsible for like two kind of pillars here, and we were talking about that earlier. One is entrepreneurship, and the other one is early childhood development, right? So when we think about like early childhood development, we were lucky enough to be able to kind of like unofficially adopt an elementary middle school in East Baltimore called Tench Tillman. The goal was just to go see what was going on there, right? Just to understand what their day-to-day life was like. And as we meet the principal, the students, the other faculty there, we just fell in love with the people, right? And you know what saddened us immediately is like when we pulled up, there was like drug paraphernalia all over, you know, the playground, you know, the sidewalks. And the first thing we thought we could do was just like get some volunteers from the hotel, offer them volunteer time off, right? They get paid just to go volunteer and do a thing, kind of like PTO, and then ask if they would come out and help to clean up and just beautify the exterior. From there, we learned a little bit more about the building itself internally. They have like a stage 1, you know, clinic there, right?
Wow.
And I mean, usually there's just like a nurse's office, but they're doing like, they got centrifuges in there and all that kind of stuff like that because they need to have it in the community. It needs to be in the school. It's something that just like, it just, you know, blew my mind. And as we went into another area of the building, there was a laundry room and kitchen. And it had the equipment in there, but the equipment was from like the Leave It to Beaver. This is a Wash reference. I know it is, but I'm 42, so y'all can Google it. But it was like extremely dated and non-functioning, right? So none of the kitchen equipment worked. The washer and dryer didn't work, but it was a uniform-based, you know, school. So when the kids would come in with like soiled uniforms, they couldn't clean it at home. The goal was to actually get them washed there, so you know, they could alleviate any kind of health issues and or bullying, you know, issues that come from bullying and just clean the uniform. So we partnered with Lowe's, Sherwin-Williams, right? Because we are not contractors here at the hotel. I'm not actually building out anything like that. Don't let me. I know I can come in, maybe put together an IKEA table for you, but I am not tearing apart a kitchen and laundry room. So they got experts from the surrounding stores to come in, demo, paint, put up the new cabinetry, put in all the equipment, and it happened over about a 2-week period. Cost them, or we'll just say total amount was like $7,000, you know, for the all the supplies, and that was all donated, right? The time was donated. We tried to volunteer, you know, here at the hotel, but we would have just gotten away. So we ultimately just did interviews to tell the story. Like, listen, we aren't doing that. We just made the connection. We collaborated on that. And as the last thing I'm gonna say about this is like, the school system, they dedicate dollars to each one of these like schools all the time.
Right.
But in over 60 years, they couldn't find enough money in the budget to redo this area for them.
Right.
Okay, cool. We're not going to just point fingers and
Right.
yell at people and say we need to elect officials and look for leaders. We're going to figure out how we can lead in our prospective areas and then give each other space to go in and accomplish this goal together.
Right.
And that's what we did.
Yeah.
We solved the problem for the community, for the school system, as a unit.
Yeah.
And that, to me, I mean, it just feels incredible just thinking about that every day, knowing those kids will be able to go in there, learn about food, wash their clothes, eat, hopefully like fresh produce and things like that that are cooked in front of them, and just learn what that looks like.
Right. Yeah, I think, man, I want to come back to a couple of things that that you mentioned in a second, but Heather, I just wanted to come back to you and ask you from a collaboration standpoint, like how are you guys as an organization thinking about like growing these collaborative collaborations with churches, and you mentioned other organizations, like how does that work in terms of other organizations that you guys partner with that are not necessarily churches, but are organizations who are invested in these other pillars within Prison Fellowship to address the population that you serve?
Right. Well, with the Opportunity Kids Collaborative, which is really an opportunity for first chances for kids who have an incarcerated parent or otherwise living in a neighborhood facing a lot of challenges and lacking opportunity. And the key thing is, first of all, we're focused very locally. So we've selected 5 cities, Baltimore being one of them, to focus on, and we have 6 pillars of different kind of areas. One of them is spiritual growth and wellness, and that's where our church partners come in. But we have other pillars like health and wellness, education, workforce development, and then we're also looking at mentoring in particular. And in every single one of those pillars, we're trying to find out who are the local organizations or national organizations already involved in doing good work in that particular space, who can bring their expertise to bear. And what Prison Fellowship brings is we are connected to the kids, thousands of kids we already have through our Prison Fellowship Angel Tree program, and we are connected to their families. They know us from, the Christmas program, as well as sports camps and summer camps. And what we do is we reach out to those families and say, hey, are you aware that there's mentoring opportunities available to you? Are you aware that we're going to be hosting a dental clinic, for example, in partnership with this organization that provides free services, not just for the kids, but also for the parents or grandparent or whatever guardian that child may be living with. And so those are the things that we're kind of surfacing within the city to make sure that interconnection is happening.
Right.
Yeah, when we look at cities like Baltimore and our neighborhoods and just a lot of the issues, one of the things that you are looking for as far as how do a family, an individual go, they're like, man, I live in this neighborhood, but how do I know if there's an issue here? How do I tap into what's going on? Because sometimes it can be overwhelming when you just like, there seems like so many statistics or issues or problems. It's like, what do you guys see when you're riding around the city? Jason, that might be a good one. As you're looking around and just going, all right, there might be some opportunity for maybe not just for me as an individual, but all right, maybe if we work together, we could find a solution here.
I think that the first thing you have to do is, before you can even collaborate, like that's a goal. It's a goal you have to reach, right? But the first thing that you have to do is go and communicate. Like you have to go and talk to the people in the community. Observing will tell you one thing, right?
Yeah.
But if you're not in there and getting the knowledge and understanding firsthand from the people, and then in some cases you have to kind of like detangle that or translate that, right? There's a lot of organizations that go into a community and they want to and it might be a food desert, and they think the solution is just to dump food into the community, right? But who's to say that community is familiar with the food that's coming into there, if they are comfortable with it, if they have the resources to store it, prepare it, all that kind of stuff. So they could just tell you something like, oh, we need better food, but it's up to you to put those two things together, right? What you observe, what you're hearing. And then from there, hopefully you can start to collaborate with some other people, because then you know what's needed, right? And what you don't have, you find through someone else, and then you once you're aligned, you equally yoked. You can go into. I got a couple Bible things. You know, we might not be faith based, but this is your Bible.
No. But actually, that's the beauty of this conversation, and why I wanted you to be a part of this conversation, because I really love and respect, you know, what you're doing, because you're. And matter of fact, let's just throw this on the table right now, because one of the things that I wanted our audience to understand is that you work for Hotel Revival, like Revival Baltimore is a hotel. You're in the hospitality industry. Like, why are these issues that you guys are involved with, which there's a myriad of issues that you guys are involved in? Why is this important to you when you're in the hospitality industry and you guys have decided that you want the hotel itself to have an impact on the community? And it's having a huge impact, like, nationwide. And so just talk about that a little bit.
I mean, I was honestly blessed, lucky, whatever you want to call it, to have, you know, been introduced to the organization. You know, I've you know, a couple years before that, I became incredibly passionate about ways that I can impact my, you know, the Baltimore community. I had a son around that time. My son's now 6 years old. I had an experience in the startup space where, you know, I really found out what it meant to when people say things like, "Oh, anything is possible. You can do whatever. You can create anything."
Right.
I didn't, you know, growing up in Baltimore, you know, in the United States, like, if you're not privileged, if you don't have access to resources, that absolutely really doesn't mean anything to you. Right. Because everything is hard. Everything is difficult every single day. So that's just a fairy tale thing, right? But it's really not. Right. And I couldn't exist in a space like that and not do something more for people right around the corner from me that deserve that, right? I couldn't live this way while they live that way. And when I was introduced to the hotel, you know, Dante Johnson had recently come on as the GM, and he had a vision that aligned not only with the values that were existing here, but also like how to take it further and how would we do that together. Right? Because it's like a simple example of this is like, even if we were doing an event here at the hotel, you know, and it's going to, you know, be here in the restaurant space, and we're like, hey, we need to find a DJ, you know, that a food and beverage director would have to have knowledge of like, who's the coolest DJ, what kind, you know, that kind of thing. And they just need to focus on doing what they do best, right? Which is directing that part of the business. You need somebody who knows the culture, knows the vibe, knows the community, and knows what experience you want to have in order to actually curate that with the intention that you have. Same thing goes with the community-based stuff, right? If you're not aligned with that, like, and you don't get the right person in there, you're not really going to achieve the goals that you want. And with them pouring energy into like engaging the Beck Center at Georgetown to determine like what the community needs, right? They did a community needs assessment, right? That's the awareness piece. Then we wouldn't know what we were doing. We would just kind of like, you know, just be throwing things out there like, oh, you need a job? Well, we'll come get a job. And it's like, oh, that person needs like a sandwich first. That person needs to like figure out their resume first. They gotta get clothes. They got some health issues to deal with. And then after you're like all good, then we can like say, all right, you ready to work? Right? You're in a good place? Let's figure that out. Like, who's to say they even, like with the squeegee program,
well, you can't just throw that out there. You gotta say what the squeegee program, because we know that's like a big controversial thing in the city, you know, that recently. And so like, talk about what you guys, you know, wanted to do with the squeegee problem. Yeah, and
it's been a 30-plus-year-old problem for our city, right? And I think it's caused because of like systematic, you know, issues that we can easily point to. But again, how do we solve this? And, you know, a lot of people were just like, well, these kids should be in school, right? Or they need to get a job. And not knowing what their life is like, of course, that's what you're going to say. But again, you haven't talked to them. And in some instances, like when they can be employed, they may not have their personal documentation to even get jobs, because their parents have moved them around so much that they've lost their social security cards, they've lost their birth certificate. It's hard for any of us to get a document if we lost it. And we have every resource in the world. We might even know a guy. You know what I mean? And it's still gonna take a while. I gotta call a few people. I gotta Google all of this. I'm stressed out. I gotta call out of work. just imagine what that's like. It's disruptive to us, but just imagine how difficult and disruptive it is to somebody like that, right? And we worked with the mayor's office, with the squeegee committee, to come together with different organizations, activists, and leaders in the community to try to figure out what to do. And through that program, we were able to hire 10 people from the squeegee community into the hotel to work in all facets of the business, right? Housekeeping, food and beverage, all that kind of stuff. And bro, like, I can't say this anymore. When they got here, it was a little rough, but by day 2, I mean, it felt like they'd always been here.
Yeah.
And we saw the impact immediately on some of these like these young kids, man. And it just shows you, like, not only do they need a job, and I'm not really I'm not speaking directly to a lot of the stuff that happened behind the scenes, because honestly, they need those wraparound services. They need to be in a space where, like, they can feel uplifted, they got to feel welcomed, they got to feel understood, they got to feel valued.
And that's where the collaboration piece comes in, because you can't do everything. That's the same thing that you were saying, Heather, that, like, hey, like, there are just some things that we can't do. So and just to come back to you, Heather, real quick. When it comes to, like, Opportunity Kids, and I want you to unpack a little bit of Opportunity Kids for us, but I know that the Angel Tree program that's a part of Prison Fellowship, what I recently learned, which was great, is that that's just an open door to be able to serve families. Talk about some ways that churches and organizations are serving these families with just the entry point of Angel Tree and Opportunity Kids.
Yeah. So a couple years ago, when I got the opportunity to oversee Angel Tree, we have been making strides ever since then on really, really pushing forward the message that Angel Tree Christmas is not just about a Christmas service project where you deliver a gift, pat yourself on the back, and you say, we'll see you next year, right? Yeah. The goal is really for that door open to be an ongoing support to that family that you're delivering to. And, I think it's really important, Angel Tree brand, it's a big brand. It's actually, we share it with the trademark with Salvation Army. But what's distinct about Prison Fellowship Angel Tree is when you're delivering that gift, you're not saying, hey, I'm coming from X church. You're saying, this is from your dad, and he remembered you. And actually there's a note affixed to the gift from dad's application, to little John Jr., whoever it may be, right? And so you're first strengthening that bond there. And so you have a natural door opening when you deliver that gift to that family to say, is there any way I can support you? Can I be praying for you? And so some of our delivery volunteers through the Angel Tree program, it starts there. Just, would you be interested in me reaching out to pray for you? We have some resources available at our church. For example, one family, I got the opportunity, my church's Angel Tree coordinator this last year. Mm-hmm. And one family, we had Thanksgiving baskets available to folks. Mm-hmm. So, hey, can we make that available to you? And they took us up on that. Another family, I've just stayed in connection with because they had older girls and my girls are young. I was like, you happen to babysit? Right. And she was like, I'm very responsible. And she was. I mean, she is the best babysitter. She was just with us this last weekend. But that's opened a door to just talk about her life. She just graduated high school. She's trying to find a job. And then it's like, what gifts and talents does she have? Which are so many. And she has, navigated so much in her life of, trying to understand public transportation, right? Like all the things you do to survive are actually amazing skill sets that this young woman has. And then I have networks and resources. So I'm like, hey, I actually know a guy who runs a coffee shop. Like, would you be interested in a job? I'll put a word in for you, right? And here's the application. And I actually have another network of a place where you could, get more babysitting jobs, right? So it's like, what gifts and skills might you bring to that family? And for some of our Angel Tree families, they actually end up becoming members of the church that served them, right? And actually some of them go on to become the Angel Tree coordinator for that church, right? Like, so it's like this beautiful
and what better
cycle.
Advocates.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So, you one woman I also delivered to just in the neighborhood in Anacostia, DC, where I live. I showed up with my 6-year-old daughter to deliver gifts for her grandkids, and she had gifts for my daughter.
Oh, wow.
Ready for us. You know what I mean? So you never know what kind of blessing you're going to get from the families you serve through Angel Tree and the cycle that's going to happen where their gifts and talents are kind of, coming to the surface and becoming part of your community and your church.
one of the things I hear both of you saying in different ways is you have to be willing to engage. You have to be willing to take an additional step or
Right.
2 or 3 beyond just the service opportunity or beyond just, hey, I'm just going to drop some things off, but asking questions, really kind of trying to understand what the need is, really surfacing what's going on with people's lives. And so what I hear you guys saying is like that even before you collaborate like that,
You gotta care.
you gotta care. Yeah.
All right, now guys, you guys have given us a ton of great information, but this podcast that we're shooting, this thing that we're doing, is for our church, it's for our congregation, and we want to give them a direct way that they can begin to live this out. We got a lot of people with a lot of different backgrounds, skills, just lifestyles. They got a lot of things that they have to offer. What are some ways that they can step out there and begin to collaborate in the community, in the city and beyond?
Well, first of all, I know your church has actually signed up to serve kids in Baltimore through the Angel Tree program.
Yes,
And so one of the things I would love for those who are listening to consider is, can you be part of that, right? We certainly need folks who are willing to buy gifts, to contact those caregivers, but that long-term journey of being with a family is really the goal. And so maybe that can be part of something you're praying on, could I step into that space?
Yes.
And you never know what gifts or opportunities or connections or network you might have that might be a benefit to that family that you end up serving. And so I'd love for people to step into that space. And also just another plug, Prison Fellowship does have a justice reform arm. We work on justice issues, and I think that the church needs to not only be about bringing the hope of the gospel to individuals, but we also need to be about making sure our gospel values are actually represented in the public square.
Yes.
And we have more people incarcerated in this country per capita than any country in the world. And we as Christians should care about that. And we should be trying to do something about that. We should be making sure that people don't come home and can't get a job, can't get housing, can't get employment because of their criminal record, right? We should be a nation of second chances, and we should live that out. And so you can come to prisonfellowship.org, and you can also volunteer and become part of our Justice Ambassador program. And we train you not only on how to talk about these issues in your community, but how do you actually go meet with your lawmaker as a constituent and share about why they should change the laws to reflect justice.
Yeah, that's great.
Oh, that's really dope.
Yeah.
That was a lot to follow. I'm not gonna lie. That was really good. It was great. A little goosebumps and everything. To my version of this, to answer this question is like, I'm really focused on the urban communities because that's where we exist. We're in Midtown Baltimore, and these issues that we're talking about and the need for collaborations to solve them exists in the suburban areas as well. Yeah. But specifically, we've seen like the decline of the urban community and the removal of faith, and just like it's just being replaced by this fugazi, just like this just like fake way of like maneuvering around the world.
Right.
Families aren't there. The family unit has been completely broken up. Some are impacted by the prison, like the criminal justice system or other things, drugs, things like that have just torn it apart. And I think like that has just, in a way, dispersed us, so that we're just all individuals, floating out here as islands, and no man can exist as an island. So I think the church provides a sense of like community and like togetherness that we can start to re-engage each other again. Right. I think that it has to be different than it's been done in the past because it's like it's not seen as what it was. This generation is totally just not it's not what I was raised on, right? And not to go too deep in that part, but no, we can, if we started with just like normalizing like a judgment-free style of communication, open up those channels, so that the church can then understand what this generation is dealing with, why they're making the decisions they're making. Then I think that it'd be easier to say, okay, well, this is something that can be solved with this resource. This is something that can be solved with the word. This is something that can be solved with a mentor. But then there would be an understanding, right? And know that each job isn't solved with a single tool, right? You just can't walk in and think you're going to fix everything with a hammer, right? Sometimes you need a gentle touch. Sometimes you just need something else. and just make it less binary, right?
Right.
So if we can do that together, I think you'll get more people back in the church again. The community will become stronger,
Right.
and we'll all become better for it.
Yeah. Hey, well, thanks a lot, Jason, Heather, for hanging out with us. Thank you for what you shared. And man, we're inspired by what you guys are doing.
Absolutely.
And we want to have impact in the city of Baltimore the same way that you guys are. So I know we'll be working together to make that happen.